Thank you all for being on time. We've had quite a start to this morning. We've had enriching conversations talking about the changing global landscape and also about India's economic direction. But now we turn our attention to a very important question, and the question is the India we are building. The session that's coming up next looks ahead at the scale, the ambition, and the speed of India's growth journey. We ask the big question, the India we are building, what's probable and what's possible? And we have an exceptional lineup of speakers to take the session ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite the very first panelist for the session onto the stage, someone who's driving HUDCO's role in supporting India's infrastructure ambitions and the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Chairman and MD of HUDCO, Mr. Sanjay Kulshrestha. A big thank you, Mr. Kulshrestha, for joining us. Please keep the applause going as coming up next, joining Mr. Kulshrestha on the stage is a pioneer in international property consultancy in India, leading CBRE's operations across 19 countries. Let's put our hands together for Chairman and CEO India, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa of CBRE, Mr. Anshuman Magazine. Thank you, Mr. Magazine, for being here with us. Our next panelist for this session, ladies and gentlemen, is someone who is making education accessible to all. So we're trying to cover a diverse spectrum of industries here. He's someone who's connecting mentors to the needy through his noble Each One Teach One projects. Not just that, he's someone who's been elected an MP to Lok Sabha at the age of 28. Please put your hands together for Tejasvi Surya. And to steer this conversation and draw the best out of each of these panelists, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome onto the stage the managing editor and primetime anchor, NDTV Network, Ms. Padmaja Joshi. Over to you, Ms. Padmaja.
Thank you very much. Very frequently, we hear about Viksit Bharat. But how does one make Bharat Viksit? When you're talking about development, infrastructure is a very important part of that overall development that you are talking about when you're talking about the year 2047. And I think we're having this conversation about what we have built and what are the possibilities that lie ahead on a very, very good day, because today we've seen the inauguration of one of the marquee projects for this government, and I would say for this country, which is the Jewar Airport. We're just kilometers away from the Jewar Airport, where we're sitting right now. So far, this area, the National Capital Region, had been serviced by one airport. Now we've got two, and this one with 5 runways promises to be a huge leap forward in connectivity, in development. So when we're talking about development and the policy around it, let me start with you, Tejasvi Surya, because coincidentally, the first commercial flight that will take off from Jewar Airport is going to be going to your city, Bengaluru. Now, many people say this is lovely. This is a Bharat and India which is shining, which is flying. But is there a divide that we are not talking about? Are we building two Indias?
Thank you, Padmaja. A very good morning to all of you. It truly is a momentous occasion for India's infrastructure story, especially India's urban infrastructure story, that the NCR is now being serviced by two important international airports. And it's a matter of joy that the first commercial flight is being connected to my city of Bengaluru. But if you just zoom out and take a big picture of what this moment also symbolizes, it is clearly indicating at a very clear, concerted migration from rural areas to urban India. It is also showing that there is a lot of intra-migration that is happening between our own cities. And all of this, of large number of people who are hitherto living in rural areas, now moving into cities, is creating its own set of challenges in urban India. How do we provide affordable housing for such a large number of people? How do we ensure quality of life for the teeming millions who are now coming inside India's cities? Do we build homes first or do we build infrastructure first so that there will not be a problem of how our current cities are? And all of this at a time when there is a very visible change in social aspirations of people. They want better quality air, they want better quality of jobs, they want better quality of water. And this is, I think, a big challenge that most of urban India is facing throughout the country. And in my humble opinion, in the coming couple of decades, this is one problem that India needs to address in a very comprehensive manner. To answer your question of two Indias, I think all of these days we were thinking of two Indias from the perspective of rural and urban. Now within urban India, there are two different types of India. Now there are the gleaming, GCC centers, the ORR 17-kilometer stretch of Bengaluru where you have the top IT companies, the semiconductor design companies coming. You also have these 8 crore, 10 crore, 12 crore premium apartments that are coming up. And then these gated communities, you just go a block away, you find large swaths of juggies, you find these large swaths of slums, which need a very serious attempt at redevelopment. So within urban India, you are seeing two different types of India. I was explaining to Sanjay ji earlier. The country is going through a formalization of the economy. While the country's economy is getting formalized, there is a large section of Indian population in urban cities which are still doing informal jobs. Because they are doing informal jobs, they do not have access to formal banking. Somebody who wants to build a house on a 20 to 30 site, or in most cases who wants to just add one room or one chat or one staircase in his house as an interim or incremental development, he has no formal financing product to actually take care of him. And if he does not have proper title papers on the 20, 30, 40 piece of land that he owns, no formal banking system is giving him credit. So these are structural issues. From a finance perspective, it should be addressed. From a transport perspective, it should be addressed. And most importantly, the question of how much load can select few cities of India handle. There's a viral Instagram reel that was going on, Padmaja, the last couple of days about a young lady from Kolkata questioning or rather being surprised at how much absorption capacity a city like Bengaluru has, because almost 50% of everybody she knows in Kolkata say they are in Bangalore today. So how much capacity does a Mumbai, a Pune, a Bangalore or a Hyderabad have? So should we not be thinking of developing what was earlier proposed in the budget as CER zones, of creating more urban clusters across the country to address this large influx of labor that is currently employed in rural and agro industries or agriculture-based work to non-agricultural based work. I think this is the big picture that as India we must be addressing.
So let me quickly ask you, as a policy maker, how do you plan to address this? In urban areas, for example, you've got a boom in these 10 crore, 12 crore apartments that you're talking about. And yet, when it comes to affordable housing, that's actually gone down by about 15%. How do you address this? Why do we not have affordable housing when that is a substantial part of the people who now populate our cities?
Because the private capital, Padmaja, goes where you will have formal profit-making routes. You also have a predictable financial markets at play. So most of the REIT money that comes into our cities, most of the private capital money that comes into our cities goes into either building commercial spaces which yield proper reliable rents, or it goes into high-end, high-value apartment complexes. The only way that urban housing for the affordable population, the only way we can address this is through state support, cross-subsidization schemes, schemes like PMAY that came, it was a big success. In addition to that, we should also be looking at many global models, because many cities in the world, whether it is Singapore, whether it is Japan, they have tried to solve this problem also. I come from Bengaluru, Padmaja, and we are facing one big problem. The city has developed in so many different parts, which was a small city. Now there's a huge urban sprawl. Now, the challenge is, how do you connect that part of the city which has now organically grown over the last 10-15 years into the core of the city where the jobs are? So can we look at a model like in Japan, where either the rail companies are the real estate companies, or can we empower metros to actually look at real estate land capture value? Can we take transport-oriented development even more seriously? So these are very serious questions that we must be addressing, because unless you build infrastructure first, unless you build the roads and the metro connectivity first, unless you put the sewerage lines and everything first, you cannot be building homes first. The problem is the economic pace at which the migration is happening, the influx of people into cities is happening, and the infrastructure catch-up. There's a huge mismatch. So I think that is a challenge that needs to be addressed.
And how do we address this challenge? Anshuman Magazine, you were speaking about the Japan model earlier. Can that be replicated here?
I think we have to find our own models. Of course, you should look at the best practices, Japan, Singapore, there are many, but what needs specifically for affordable housing, one of the reasons why affordable housing is not coming in as much, because there's no incentive for any developer to do affordable housing. It's so difficult to do development already. There's so much brain damage. They would rather do a smaller project at a high end and get the return because the effort is the same than do affordable housing. So first and foremost, how do we, if we have to, there could be government schemes, no doubt. PMA, this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has been good, but that is low-cost housing. We are talking about affordable housing because people don't differentiate. And the urban middle class needs affordable housing. We have to incentivize the developers, which means it could be tax benefits, it could be, and it's all about financing to begin with. How do we get affordable financing for the developer first, right? And how do we give incentives, be it taxation, whatever, to the developer? How does he get access to land at a competitive cost? But leave alone land, that's another discussion. But the key is affordable financing for the developer, and then affordable financing for the consumer, because you have to create consumption. One of the reasons, again, it's not coming in is because a lot of our per capita income is low, relatively, and people cannot afford affordable housing also. How will they afford it if they get loans at a low cost? Now, there are government schemes which are there. So what I'm saying is, in short, is that if a developer gets tax benefit, and if we move from a mindset, or anybody else, any institution who wants to do affordable housing, we should say, look, that person should get enough incentive, move from the mindset, oh, the person is making too much profit. They have to make a profit to go into that business, right?
There has to be a political will. I mean, let's just address the elephant in the room. There has to be a political will where you can't just say that PM Awas Yojana is going to be the be-all and end-all. You have to have private participation.
And PM Awas Yojana is great because, again, I said this is for low-cost housing, right? So that it's doing its purpose, but for affordable housing. And then someone who's buying a first house, give them a loan at a subvention rate. So you're creating demand and supply. I think that's the only way. Of course, infrastructure is key. One of the reasons why land is expensive is because you don't get land with infrastructure, right? So and the good part is you talked about Jewar Airport, highways. We have done a great job as a country in highways, metro connectivity. Hopefully, with all this infrastructure, more land will come for development, especially if the connectivity improves. People can stay, they don't have to be concentrated in one place, which will throw more land. But the key, again, I feel is financing. And if we do that, there's enough demand and there are enough people who would do it, who will develop affordable housing. But right now, I don't see, and also if you look at the last budget, there was nothing on affordable housing as far as incentives are concerned. So we really need to do something urgently if we have to address that.
I'll come back to you, Tejasvi Surya, on that, but I think Mr. Kulshrestha wants to, this is his cue for stepping in. Yes.
Thank you so much. I think I will start from the PMAY. There are various components of the PMAY. One is the housing for EWS, wherein there are several components starting from the beneficiary-led construction that the Government of India is extending. Here also, as Honorable MP has said, that a lot of leverage is there in the PMAY 1.0 and states has taken the benefit, and around 10 million houses are already constructed. And as a part of continual enactment of the housing, this PMAY 2.0 is started, and here also the states are coming forward for the EWS housing. Here the central government is extending around 60% and the state has to contribute 40%. Some of the states has also came forward with a beneficiary-led kind of contribution so that the houses can be much bigger and much good in size. Other than that, the second component is the interest subvention scheme, as Mr. Magazine was saying. It is already announced by the Government of India wherein there is a 3 to 5% of the interest subvention for affordable housings to be created across the state, across the country. And during last PMAY also this was there, and a lot of middle class beneficiaries were there, and these beneficiaries are distributed this interest subvention through the banks, and there is a clear-cut definition of the affordable housing as per the RBI and as per the Government of India. So that benefit is also always there. But other than this, if you see across the country, for housing, there are a lot of initiative that the state and the central government is taking. I can name a few, starting from the TOD policies that the government has came out, then redevelopment of old buildings, old markets and old jhoggis and shantis. It is already there. We can have an example in Mumbai also. Other than this, there are rental housing also, which is also the part of PMAY, the affordable housing on rent, which the developed cities like Bangalore, then they can harness these kind of incentive under these kind of schemes. So there is enough of the policy and the capital initiative that the Government of India and the state government has taken. It is for the public as well as the private, both, and the citizens can also take the direct benefit under these schemes. So this is regarding the housing. So I will
But you think that more incentives are needed?
There are a lot of incentives already. If you are taking a loan of say 7% or 8% for housing, like SBI is extending around 8%, and there is a subvention of at least 3% under this PMAY. I think 5% is a very affordable.
Where's the gap?
So that is good. There are these which creates consumption. But what is the incentive for someone to develop affordable housing? Right? Because we are still putting GST in every input, cement, steel. We are still taxing the developer, and that developer has to do a middle. So when, for example, today I would say middle income would be, price range would be 45 lakhs to 90 lakhs, 70 lakhs. Can you in today's time deliver that kind of product which is affordable? And why would a developer do all that? If there's not, if they don't have a, incentive. That's the thing. So, that's what I was talking about. It has to be both ways. You are creating consumption as well as, with the supply.
Well, Padmaja, is the government at the state level, central level, are governments trying enough? They are. Should more need to be done? Of course, more needs to be done. No questions about that. When we are targeting as policy movement of people from agriculture-based employment to non-agriculture-based, city-based employment, it naturally means that consequentially we must also address the challenges and opportunities that will rise with such a large number of people coming. So while there is a interest subvention scheme, while there is a PMAY that caters to MIG, LIG and EWS, there is also a new component that has been introduced in 2022, which is the rental component. These are all welcome measures. But should more be done to answer Mr. Anshuman's questions? 100% more needs to be done. At the same time, there is also accountability that needs to be fixed on a lot of developers who go scot-free. I will give you an example from my own constituency where I had to approach the courts, approach the SBI-led Swami Fund to ensure completion of 3,500 middle-class homes, which was stuck for one full decade. So while there is RERA, while there is these policies that have been made, more needs to be done because the country is urbanizing at a never seen before pace. Just to make one last point, while we are addressing urban housing as one specific dimension, Padmaja, I think we should also be addressing the larger picture of urban governance, which is very directly tied to all of these things. Mr. Anshuman may join cause with me. One of the reasons that many developers find affordable housing projects commercially unviable is because of the self-inflicted wound that I call is the FSI limits that we ourselves have imposed. In a city like Bengaluru, when you are spending 20 to 25,000 crores on one 12-kilometer or 15-kilometer metro line, why are we not incentivizing developers around that place to increase the FSI? And who controls the FSI? The local corporation controls the FSI. In a city like Bengaluru, in the last 6 years, we don't have a local corporation. 6 years this may come as news to people sitting here in Delhi. A city of the size of Bengaluru, which has 1.4 crore population, is being led by one bureaucrat. So I am actually moving a private member's bill in the coming parliament session, asking for local body elections to be given charge to the Central Election Commission, not to the State Election Commission. Because unless you have powerful mayors, unless you have workable, functional municipal bodies, who is going to take care of your municipal bonds? Who is going to... We were discussing earlier that even though the Urban Challenge Fund exists on paper as policy, even though PMAY has 19,000, 20,000, whatever crore allotted for 1,000 crore for per state, unless the local body makes a presentation, gives a proposal to the state, from the state it comes here, it will only remain on paper. So these are also structural issues, structural urban issues that we need to address because close to 60% of the country's urban governance bodies are not having elections on time. We don't have accountable, powerful, responsible mayors or mayor in councils. There's a Niti Aayog draft legislation that is in the works, which looks very promising, which looks at addressing all of these issues. And last point, I have earlier mentioned this, I'm repeating this again because this is a very serious issue. While we speak of somebody who takes a 7% housing loan from SBI and gets an interest subvention for 2% and he gets a 5%. There is a large section of people coming into the into the cities who have no title paper. He can never, he will never be a customer for Mr. Magazine's apartment. So where do you give him, which is the financial product that is giving him the financial muscle to buy a house? These are actually the challenges.
Yeah, just for clarity, I'm not a developer. But I'm just saying, sorry.
I just want to broad base this argument because you spoke of urban governance and we've spoken of infrastructure. Housing is just one part of it. Are all the other components even keeping up? Now look at the classic example. We have got this airport in our vicinity, which is going to bring in an influx of tourists, we are being told, into Western Uttar Pradesh. Do we have the infrastructure to keep up with this influx? Do we have the infrastructure, the forward-looking working plan to keep up with the number of people who will now be settling in, say, in a greater Noida or a Noida or even an Agra and Mathura, because now they're going to be extremely close and serviceable by this airport?
I think the two areas you mentioned, which are extremely important, one is FSI, that should be increased, but that's a longer discussion. The other thing is urban governance. And the biggest challenge we are facing as a country, we have to build capacity at every level, from municipal level to the state level, city level. Even if we have the financing, which I think is extremely important, can that money be dispersed at the municipal level, or like I said, a city level or a town level? We just do not at the government level have the capacity right now, right? And the training of them and a lot of times you can get funding. Everybody talks about public-private partnership. Private capital will not go to any place where there isn't proper governance, transparency, and you have clear that you're investing, this is the return, this is the exit, right? So, but that's a long discussion. And yes, that should be done in an urgent basis. I just want to share some positive statistics with all. India has got many problems, but there are many positives that happened. What we have seen in last decade in India, of course, we've not seen before. In last 5 years, if I look at the other parts of the city, in last 5 years, yep, 100 and where did that stats go? Yeah, if I look at the office sector, right, in the top 8 cities, 327 million square feet of office space is coming, right? But in top 8 cities. In 2026, we will touch 1 billion square feet of office space in India in the top 8 cities. 1 billion square feet, right? And 30% of this billion square feet office space has come in last 5 years. So you can imagine how much construction has happened in our country. But if you look at the other side, like I was sharing with you, Tokyo has 1 billion square feet of office space. So one end, we have gone through a tremendous built out in India since last 10 years, 5 years, and which is unprecedented. But we are so far behind other countries that we need to speed up. So logistics, I'll just say warehousing, more than 200 million square feet has come in last 5 years. If I look at investments, there's $52 billion have come in real estate in the last 5 years. And can you imagine the amount of built out which is happening in India? I don't think because in other cities you see big cranes going around. You may not see that in India, but besides office, logistics, and residential, there is education sector. There's so many schools and colleges coming up. You look at hotels. Finally, since last few years, there's a big built out in the hotel sector. You look at health sector. There's so many hospitals and tertiary clinics and everything coming up. So there's massive, which is built out happening in India, which is not really as visible. We monitor it as a company every day.
What is the factor behind it? What do you think are the factors behind this sudden boom that you've seen in the last 5-6 years?
So for example, in office, it is definitely global capability centers. India is the technology hub of the world, and global capability centers are here to stay. India has the demographic dividend. So we have moved from, that cost arbitrage to skill arbitrage right now. So that is happening. Logistics is because of, so everywhere there's more investment coming in. But my point is we are still behind. And again, coming to cities very quickly, this one stats are like, if you look at China, the number of cities in China, which is more than 2 million population, is over 100. In India, it's like maybe 40, right? More than 5 million, there are 45 plus to 50 cities in China. In India, it's 2025. So till the time that urbanization you talked about, we are urbanizing at a fast pace, but not fast enough. But it's going to gather pace, and that's why we need capacity building. We need so much more,
And just to be clear, we also have a low base that we started with, like we discussed earlier. We have spoken of a lot of factors, the fact that India is a skill hub, but it's also, at the end of the day, boiling down to governance. And you have to build from the bottom up. You need to have that policy. If whoever is in government decides that they need to fix this problem, that is the only way to get started, right? And you've seen that changing over the last decade and a half.
I think I fully agree with this fact that governance is the prime mover for all the development in the country. And things are improving for good, and if you see from the topmost side also, the loans which are being extended to the states, they are all reform driven. So there is a transformation from the subsidy driven kind of approach to the bankable, viable, and you can say even the climate resilient kind of infrastructure creation. All these conditionalities are there while extending these kind of funds to the state government. At the same time, for the governance also, as MP has also made a point that we need to do something regarding the governance, and there is a political commitment which is coming across, and Niti Aayog has came out with a draft paper that how the city administration should work. And if you can compare with the US or UK, there is city administrator to which all the authorities are reporting. In our country, it is not like that. There is a municipal commissioner and some few people are reporting that, but the electricity department, the PWD department, the water department, they are not reporting to that city municipal commissioner. So all these facts are being discussed, and I am very sure that very shortly these kind of regulations and the reform-based regulations will come from the top side, and they are not only the financially subsidized kind of loans kind of extension, but it will come from within also, that this kind of framework will be there for tier 1 kind of cities. This kind of framework is required for tier 2 or Nagar Panchayat or some Nagar Nigam kind of structures, because until unless we have these kind of structures, no investors will come. We will not be able to raise the municipal bonds, and we want that lot of municipal bond, lot of public money should come to the public administration. So all these things are required, and I think this should be led by the reforms and the governance practices.
I think we have a double thing. We are a democracy, we should be proud of, but we also have a federal structure. So imagine we are competing with China when there's one-man rule. So democracy makes it very difficult to implement things, and then we have a federal structure. Even real estate is a state subject, and how to put that together, I'm sure, makes it more difficult.
Well, you have a more diffuse power structure, but that's the beauty of democracy and federalism. It needs to be more cohesive. It can be diffuse, but it needs to be more cohesive. And the other thing is that you need to develop more such cities where people can find work. For example, right now, you've got cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, which are taking on a lion's share of the load. People from smaller cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities are going there. How do you ensure that this inordinate amount of load that you are putting on all of your tier 1 cities eventually over time gets diffused? Yes.
Padmaja, the answer to this is not a straitjacket formula, but creation of very many urban clusters across the country which will employ people primarily in manufacturing. I think if you introduce manufacturing in a place and the kind of infrastructure that follows it, there's a large retention capacity that it will have, absorption capacity of labor it will have. I mentioned earlier that only a few cities, 5 or 6 of them, cannot handle the large influx of the whole country's rural to urban migration. On a political side, I also feel that while municipal reforms are the must to make sure that our urban local bodies become more accountable, more financially powerful and deliverable, we must also look at delimitation of our parliament and assembly constituencies to reflect the changed urban reality on the ground. From 1971 to 2026, India's polity on the ground has had a massive transformation. But it is not reflecting in the parliament, in the committees, in the legislative assembly. So whenever delimitation happens, it will have a reflection of the changed reality and give more voice to urban issues in legislative forums, which will then translate into more political capital, financial capital flowing into all of these issues. So the future of India's political discussions will be, rightfully so, around quality of life issues in urban areas, our air pollution, our water pollution. How do we make our cities more, easy to commute? How do we have affordable housing in our cities? How do we manage solid waste management in our cities? As of today, most of these issues are practically absent in our legislative assembly debates and in our parliamentary debates because the ground reality is not being reflected there. I will give you one statistics from Karnataka. 65% of the state's GDP comes from just one city, Bengaluru. 1.5 to 1.6 crore people live in Bengaluru, but Bengaluru has only 28 assembly seats. There are 156 purely rural seats in Karnataka, where there are voters for namesake, but people are living in urban city like in Bangalore. So when there is a delimitation that reflects the ground reality in assemblies, then you will start having these debates on the floor of the house. Then there will be a demand from the people, people-led demand. Then all of these things will consequently take place. Urbanization cannot be treated in a ad hoc or in a one puzzle here, another puzzle there kind of a phenomena. It needs to be done in a very comprehensive approach. We need to be catering to how do we bring people out of, if we are speaking of thinking of bringing people out of farm jobs, what are the other kind of jobs that we can make them available? It starts with that. What are the kind of skills we get? Where do we house them? What is the kind of infrastructure nearest to where they are that can be provided so that large scale, thousands of kilometers of migration from Kolkata to Bangalore, from Birbhum to Bangalore is avoided? First question. Second, in our own cities, we have the big cities, then you have the tier 2 cities. In both of these cities, how can we have better governance standards at the municipal level? He mentioned about state capacity. I had asked formally through a letter to the Commissioner of Bangalore, how many qualified transport engineers and urban planners the municipality has on its rolls. We don't have any. Can you believe it? So the whole planning of where a road hump should come, where a double-decker flyover should come, or where a tunnel road should be made, all of these are ad hoc, politician-based or contractor-led projects that are made absolutely whimsically. Our traffic signals are also judged whimsically. So the state capacity should be done. Municipal governance needs to be done. For a city like Bangalore, just around the city, we have Tumkur, Chikballapur, Mysore, all of Kolar. Can we have rapid regional transport systems so that people can come from those cities in 40 minutes, 45 minutes to Bangalore, work and go back, so that the housing pressure on Bengaluru is lessened? So the limited point is, India does not anymore live in its villages. India today lives in its urban centers. This is a policy reality, a political ground reality that we must all accept. And once that is accepted, and this whole, yesteryear idea of romanticizing village economy से हम जब बाहर आएंगे, then I think all of these governance reforms will be led, and that is going to boost the country's economy and growth for the next 2 years, 2 decades. Thank you so much.
But the thing to be kept in mind also is that we need more of these urban centers, since India, most of India is living in urban centers, and that they need to be governed and managed well. You can't just develop them as population clusters and then let them fend for themselves, like we're seeing a lot of cities. They've turned into an urban mess. You've got a huge population pressure, but you don't have the infrastructure to keep up with it. You want to weigh in on that? Yes.
No, I think I will again...
please, after Sanjay. Please.
I will come back to the topic of this. I think it was the possible and the probable. So what we were discussing there, lot of possibilities are there. And for Viksit Bharat, I think this arbitrage has to emerge. Okay, what is probable? If we work on only the probable, it will be a trend that we will be achieving. I think India can do much more because of its geographic locations, because of its population, because demand-driven markets, because lot of things. And I think we are all discussing what is possible, what we can get through governance, through financial modelings, through reforms, and whatever we can. So I think this is the question that we were discussing, and what kind of challenges, be it the climatic challenges, be it the urbanization challenges, all these things needs to be answered in a very defined and a very time-defined manner, so that whatever we are doing, it will be well planned, well governed, well sustained and climatically resilient kind of infrastructure.
I know we run out of time. The question of what is probable and what is possible, I'll just sum it up in 2 words. It is probable that we will quadruple our per capita income in next 10 years, but it is possible to increase it 10 times in 10 years if we do the right things,
Okay, and I think we let the policymakers have the last word. What is probable and what is possible?
Both are. We are all here because we believe in this country. There is so much hope in this country. There is literally millions of people looking at us to give them hope. And wherever I go, I see teeming young people looking at institutional structures with hope for a better future. So what is probable? India's GDP increasing, per capita GDP doubling, quadrupling, all of this is probable. What is possible? A Viksit Bharat is 100% possible. No way, 2 ways about it. Just one point to go back to where we were saying, because this is such a passionate issue for me because I come from a city like Bangalore. We should also actively consider institutionalizing a national municipal cadre to address the whole state capacity issue. The officers who are currently put in our municipality, they really do not have the ability, capacity to be delivering modern urban problems because they are not trained for it. They were generalists who were trained for some other work a generation ago, who have now been either sent here on deputation or some other work. They really are not capable of handling modern India's urban crisis. So maybe at a national level, at a state level, time has now come for us to, like IAS, like IPS, whatever national cadre for municipal officers needs to be done because the reality is changing. The reality today is India is one of the fastest urbanizing economies in the world. Our systems, institutions, population, and political culture must meet this changing urban India. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Thank you very much, all gentlemen, and thank you for this wonderful audience for having joined us. And always very nice to see people actually passionate about urban governance. Thanks very much.
A big thank you for that fantastic conversation to all our panelists, Mr. Kulshrestha, Mr. Magazine, Mr. Surya, and Ms. Padmaja Joshi. A big thank you to you for bringing out the opportunities, the aspirations, and of course, the realities that are shaping India's future ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. And with that, I would like to request Mr. Satish Kaura to please join us on stage to present a small token of appreciation to our panelists, please. Thank you to our panelists once again, and thank you, Mr. Satish Kaura, for doing the honors.